Recording. Good morning and good afternoon, and a warm welcome to everyone joining us today, including our esteemed delegates from PAHO member states, from the Mental Health Commission of Canada, distinguished panelists, and the entire PAHO community. I'm Claudina Cayetano. I work with PAHO as mental health advisor. It is a great honor for me to be the moderator for the launch of this course, Understanding Stigma and Cognitive Behavioral Interpersonal Skills. This course is offered by the Pan American Health Organization in collaboration with Mental Health Commission of Canada and with the financial support from the European Union for the ACP countries. Mental illness continues to gain awareness as a global health problem, and the awareness of the effect of stigma has also increased. We know that stigma has a complex process involving labeling, stereotyping, and discrimination. So it is in this regard that the Mental Health Commission of Canada and PAHO, using the virtual campus for public health, has put together this course to mutually support countries in the region to gain a meaningful and measurable understanding of stigma reduction interventions. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce the Unit Chief for Mental Health at PAHO, Dr. Renato Oliveira, who will be doing the welcome remarks. Over to you, Renato.
Thanks, Claudina. Thanks, colleagues. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I want to start by taking this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to all of our speakers and guests. I'm Renato Oliveira, as Claudina mentioned, the Unit Chief for Mental Health and Substance Use here at the headquarters of PAHO in Washington, D.C. It's really an honor to deliver the welcome remarks for the inaugural launch of the Understanding Stigma and Strengthening Cognitive Behavioral Interpersonal Skills, a virtual course developed in collaboration with the Mental Health Commission of Canada's Opening Minds. While it is undeniable that all humans are born equal and their dignity and rights should not be subject to discrimination, many persons with lived experience of mental health conditions continue to face challenges of stigma as it pertains to mental health. As defined by the United Nations, mental health stigma is a community's negative perceptions towards people with mental disorders, influencing all areas of life, including life expectancy, learning, working, and social relationships. The stigmatization of persons living with mental health conditions in healthcare settings can manifest in subtle and largely unintended ways. People with mental health and substance use problems have reported feeling devalued, dismissed, or dehumanized in these encounters. Such experiences can result in less effective care and reluctance to seek help, denying people with mental health conditions the right to quality care that they deserve. Additionally, the COVID-19 pandemic, which is disproportionately affecting the region of the Americas, may be exacerbating stigma and discrimination against people with mental health conditions. Being exposed to, infected with, or recovering from COVID-19 is also associated with stigma. And people with severe mental disorders in particular have been shown to have a significant increased risk for COVID infection and worse outcomes from the disease. Furthermore, we also know that people with mental health conditions are more likely to experience relapse or a worsening of their conditions due to the pandemic, making it that much more important now that they received uninterrupted quality mental health care without barriers such as stigma. PAHO is committed to supporting countries in the region as they combat stigma associated with mental health and substance use conditions and its impacts. In response to the identified need to address stigma in clinical health settings as part of the greater goals to promote mental well-being and prevent mental health conditions, also to promote the human rights of persons with these conditions. That's why we have partnered with the Mental Health Commission of Canada to develop the course that is here being launched today. The course for primary healthcare providers will be delivered via PAHO's virtual campus for public health as a blended online self-learning and tutor-guided course. Its purpose is to reduce mental health-related stigma and improve primary care providers' clinical and practice management skills when working with individuals experiencing mental health challenges. We envision that the successful implementation of this course within the region of the Americas will significantly improve healthcare provider service users' interactions, resulting in improved health outcomes and respect for the dignity and rights of people living with mental health conditions. It's also important for me to mention that a version of this course in Spanish is also being organized, so countries in Latin America will also be able to join in their language. So thank you very much for being with us here today. Thanks to the colleagues from the Mental Health Commission of Canada. Without further ado, I pass the floor to Dr. Claudina Caetano, who will continue the opening today. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for the warm welcome, Dr. Oliveira. We are excited that finally the day has arrived for us to launch this course, and there's a lot of excitement in the sub-region about having a course of this type. So the keynote speaker for today's launching is Ed Mantler, and Ed Mantler is the Vice President of Programs and Priorities. So it's a pleasure to have him joining us for the launching.
Thank you very much, Claudina, and good morning, everyone. It's a huge pleasure for me to be here with you today representing the Mental Health Commission of Canada. And I'm excited to celebrate the launch of the online version of this important program, which combines understanding stigma and cognitive behavioral interpersonal skills, or what we call CBIZ for short. To start, I'd like to take this opportunity to say a huge congratulations to everyone involved in this important collaboration, this partnership between the Mental Health Commission of Canada, the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, located here in Canada, along with the Pan-Canadian Health Organization. As you're probably already aware, the curriculum of this online program combines two complementary evidence-based anti-stigma programs, which have not only been used successfully in Canada for some time, but were also pilot tested in a face-to-face, in-person delivery format in Suriname back in 2018. And across all of those, the program has tested and evaluated very well and provided useful skills. These two programs grew out of work done by members of the Mental Health Commission's Opening Minds program, and you'll have an opportunity in a moment to meet a couple of members of our Opening Minds teams. Opening Minds was launched more than a decade ago, and it's the largest systematic effort in Canadian history aimed at reducing the stigma associated with mental illness. Its origins can be traced back to a report called Out of the Shadows at Last, which was produced by the Senate of Canada, one of the Senate's standing committees on social affairs, science, and technology. It was a comprehensive study of the mental health system in Canada, and it recommended the creation of the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and recommended that the first priority of the commission be to tackle the stigma that clings to mental illness. The reason it's important is stigma is seen as a major barrier that prevents people from getting the help that they need and can use. As many as 2/3 of people living with mental health problems or illnesses are not seeking treatment, and stigma has been identified as one of the major impediments. Many people living with mental health problems or illnesses report that the stigma they're experiencing, the discrimination that comes from that stigma, is worse than the symptoms of the illness itself. So here's an interesting comparison. Several years ago, I experienced a heart attack, and I had no hesitation to immediately engage the healthcare system, to call an ambulance, to go to the hospital, and to seek treatment. I had no fear that I would be called lazy. I had no fear that I would simply be told to get myself together, pull my socks up, and work harder at making my heart beat efficiently. I knew, and the care providers that I interacted with knew that their efforts were worthwhile and that I would recover, and I have recovered. People experiencing mental health problems and illnesses do not have that same experience. They do not have, they're not greeted with often a sense of enthusiasm that stems from the reluctance or the lack of awareness of healthcare providers that recovery from mental health problems and illnesses is not only possible, but is the expectation. We know from our research that healthcare providers often lack the skills needed to help patients with mental health problems or illnesses, and that leads to a lack of confidence and a reluctance when it comes to providing the appropriate treatment. We know there's also a lack of awareness about their own prejudices, and they see the illness before the person. So in our approach to tackling stigma, some key demographic, key populations were really our target audiences, and healthcare providers being among one of those. In tackling stigma, the Commission could have taken what would have been the expected or usual approach to launch, a major marketing campaign, some radio and television ads, a few billboards, some pamphlets. But our research told us that that was not the most effective way to use our very limited resources. There's a lot of competition in that arena, and more so when the campaign ends, people tend to forget the messages. So the Opening Minds team considered, starting from scratch to develop new programs, but thought, why reinvent the wheel when already there were existing anti-stigma programs in place that may be effective? So why reinvent the wheel? The team put out a call and was shocked by the response. There were literally hundreds of proposals and requests to our request for interest to have existing programs evaluated and considered for spread and scale. So who to work with first? Acting on recommendations of the panel of national and international stigma experts, the team was able to narrow down the list of programs that we saw. The next phase was to evaluate those programs for effectiveness and identify the active key ingredients and gaps. This involved developing new survey tools that previously did not exist. Following that process, the best programs were replicated and tested in different settings, the net result being evidence-based programs able to deliver positive outcomes. The Commission continues to promote these programs and has created courses and toolkits to help groups implement the programs. This is the genesis of Understanding Stigma and CBIZ. While the progress that has been made reducing stigma is wonderful, there's still a lot of work to be done. Back in 2008, the WHO predicted major depressive disorders would become the most significant cause of disability worldwide by 2030. Being overachievers, we've met that mark 13 years earlier than predicted. Depression alone affects more than 400 people globally and has become the major cause of disability worldwide since 2017. Mental health has been in the spotlight like never before as people cope with the stress and isolation created by the COVID pandemic. The recent actions of high-profile athletes drawing attention to their mental health has also helped to reduce stigma and raise awareness of mental health problems and illnesses. Many people will be coming forward seeking help. This is our opportunity to continue to break down the stigma and discrimination that creates a barrier and our opportunity to provide better care through programs such as Understanding Stigma and CBIZ. International collaboration like this makes a huge difference in changing attitudes towards mental illness. Program participants are also commended. The knowledge and skills they acquire through this training will make a difference for people needing help, as well as creating a more welcoming and supportive environment. More about the research and the results associated with the program will be shared by my colleagues in just a few minutes, but for now, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your keynote points, well taken, wealth of information. It is very sad to know that the people who are who are to provide support, who are provide services. Primary healthcare providers have the highest rate of stigma and discrimination. That is really very sad, but it's very we're very happy to know that there is programs like what you have put together to be able to change that. And so that, hearing that stigma is worse than the illness itself, that is not, that is very difficult to understand, but it does happen. And this is why the relevance of doing this kind of courses. So, when I listen to what you're saying, that many times people put the illness before the person, it's a reality that happens. And this is why we're so excited in partnering with the organization, with the Mental Health Commission of Canada, to be able to, start this journey to see how best each one of us can make a change. And this brings me to our next panelist, a person with a lived experience, Ms. Caroline Ravello. She's a mental health practitioner, media and communication professional, who will talk to us about this importance of what it is, talking about recovery, what it is of being a person with lived experience. Thank you very much, Ed, and over to Caroline, Ms. Caroline Ravello.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to have an opportunity to speak this morning, fellow panelists and all listening. A very good day to you. I accepted this invitation and agreed to tell a part of my story because the remit of this training program is in keeping with my advocacy and my dedication to myself in self-advocacy and to national advocacy to the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean. Over the decades of my advocacy, I have seen how telling my story has worked to free people living with mental illnesses from the fear they feel of being stigmatized. And I can attest to that stigma is definitely worse than my diagnoses. My earliest encounter with mental ill health diagnosis was in the 1970s, in my mid-teens. So that means, if you're counting, I have had diagnoses and illnesses morphing from my teenage years to my late 50s. So we're talking about 4 decades as a client of the mental health system, even when there wasn't a mental health system, and even while we grappled for one in Trinidad and Tobago. At that time, I was a secondary school student preparing for final exams. There were complications in my life because at that age, I had only just begun processing the adverse childhood experiences of abject poverty, sexual molestations, and myriad inappropriate sexual incidents at the hands of men and women in my rural community. It was really a very conflicting time. I could not understand the guilt and shame that I had begun experiencing, but at that time I had started to process in my mid-teens. I think that's what happens with most people who have had any kind of early childhood infractions. And at that time there was no one I felt I can speak with, but yet I felt that everyone knew something had happened, or felt that everyone else thought something was wrong with me. Despite that, I would have gone through secondary school and later on be honored with the school's first recognition for public service. So the years preceding my first diagnosis, music was my thing. I was lead singer in the school choir. I had sang and done dramatic presentations for every single graduation while I was at school, except in my year when I was the valedictorian. Netball, girls cricket, basketball, debating teams, August holidays, internship in creative arts. I was the best all-rounder of my time. Simultaneously, I had begun a spiral of unhealthy sexual attractions from as early as 13. I did not understand it, but when I got attention, it made me feel better. I started acting out at school. I was restless. I was lost. And then, on a melancholy Monday, I had my first nervous breakdown, described by my schoolmates years after as a screaming, screeching, blood-curdling incident in the school courtyard in front of the other 400 students. I was taken in the Dean's car to the medical office, to the district medical officer of health. I was sent home for a bit. And then after, I would be hospitalized at the psychiatric ward of the nearest hospital. In that first incident, I lost 21 days of my life being in a fugue state. On my return to school, I realized I was the school's freak show. And in my community in the 1970s, I suffered severe religious stigma. I also attended a religious secondary school. My parents took me to everyone who would cast out a demon. And then going back to school, I was labeled the devil. My class made a banner and put it on my desk during the intermission, and it said, "Look, the devil day." I graduated secondary school, entered the workplace, and my ill health persisted. After my first episode, my employers, a state authority, severely mistreated me, in my opinion, and ensured that I understood I didn't belong. Lost days from work meant lost wages, and soon my health issues would put me in debt that I could not manage and did not know how to manage. Everything in my life in that first decade after the onset of my illnesses was amplified to ensure that I knew I was not normal. And now I had become the workplace freak. Let's fast forward to the century because I cannot tell you all that happened. But earlier on the initiation of a forward-thinking newspaper editor, I decided to do an 8-part series on mental health for a national newspaper. I was warned. I was told that if I did that, I would be branded as the mad woman who writes in the newspapers. And I was offended. But soon after, I realized that, something happened. I started in the column, started to apply for jobs. And for the first time in my life in Trinidad and Tobago, there was not one single response to any of my job applications for positions for which I was duly qualified. Not one employer, including the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, had ever responded to an application in the 5 years that I ever bothered to apply. I was interviewed in Dominica. I was sought out by Guyana. I went for senior position in other jurisdictions, but never again in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So I stopped applying. Still, I raised my son, and with difficulty and injury to him, somehow I managed to survive my bosomed hurt in this exacting, prejudiced, and sometimes very unkind country, where our national anthem say every creed and race should find an equal place. Knowing that the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago still contains tenets that discriminate against people living with mental illnesses from serving in the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, I decided to test the system and offered myself, my very qualified self, for candidacy, only to be mocked at that process. I spoke up candidly about my psychiatric encounters with doctors and with ill health. There was sniggers and eye avoidance by parliamentarians who knew me and my capabilities intimately because I had worked with them managing their communications, speech writing, and so on, writing for the parliament and everything else. And they were there to make a judgment about my work and whether I can serve the country in high office. And this happened in the country that has appointed senators using wheelchairs for mobility. Now, my time here only allows for highlighting some of the occasions of stigma, and I understand my audience. But this one experience in 2015, I believe, embodies or encapsulates all of my stigmatizing experiences by primary caregivers, many, too many, who for the most part have exhibited offhandedness with my being so open as I choose to be about my challenges, and they are within my own family. In 2015, I entered the Medical Sciences faculty of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus. There, in the one place I was not expecting to face bigotry, during our introductions in the very first week of school, a senior state psychiatric employee in my cohort of 18 introduced himself saying, "I am so and so, and I run down mad people for a living." I was livid. And the tears were right behind my eyes. I scoffed loudly. I was visibly upset. And so he looked at me, not knowing who I was at that time, and he qualified his statement with a silly smirk, saying that his job as a mental health officer was to go to the communities to give injections to mad people. And in his words, most of them does run because they don't want to take the injection. And he laughed. I became unpopular very quickly at the Faculty of Medical Sciences. My protest was loud and broad, and I took also to social media and traditional media. And while we ended our time at the university amicably, it was that singular occasion, the hurt from that occasion, that led me to write that the worst form of stigmatization and the deepest ones and the most damaging ones are within the community of healthcare givers. And that too made me unpopular. But I commend the many caregivers, especially in psychiatry and psychology, who supported my view. Now, I am in the Caribbean, they will say I am hard-headed, but I'm a writer. So I say I have an obdurate skull. I am resilient. I know that mental illness is no different from physical illness, and that has protected me throughout the years. I have only described stigma in my life briefly here, with the understanding that our primary caregivers in the Caribbean communities come from that very same socialization that I had come from, and would understand the experiences that I have had. What has helped is the supportive and non-stigmatizing attitude of my mother, who never expected anything less from me, despite the many times she had to trek to the San Fernando General Hospital psychiatric ward to visit me. And at that time, the nurses and doctors, they were so supportive. I believe that that helped to buoy me through my 4-decade storm. One of my psychiatrists, a professor who is no longer my doctor, but is now one of my friends, who engages me like a serious adult with a view and respected opinions about mental health in the Caribbean, is to be commended for helping me along the path. Church and the Christian community were especially punishing in ill treatment that came with a lot of unawareness and too much religious stigma. In response, I am quietly working on a faith-based mental health intervention. I have been teaching for the past year internationally and in Caribbean churches. Shame and guilt no longer follow me. I have replaced those with goodness and mercy and a higher hope for a better life, which I know everyone like me should have and can have and must have with dignity. I have experienced the peace that passes understanding. And yes, I still take my prescription meds. I still seek talk therapy when it's needed. I'm appreciative of the people who regard me with a special regard for the work that I do and who see me and not my illnesses. There are hundreds, possibly thousands of people who have accessed my work and they have been counseled by the work I have been doing. I am still underemployed. I would not be considered for high office until our entrenched discrimination abates. I am managing and thriving with diagnoses of clinical depression and bipolar disorder too, having started as an early schizophrenic diagnosis, and I press on. Currently, I am enrolled at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Jamaica campus as a postgraduate student reading for the doctorate in public health in the 2021 cohort. It is my hope that this would afford me greater opportunities for public mental health so that my story, my experience, and my expertise, sometimes discounted because I have diagnoses, can be shared widely in the Caribbean and in the world. And if I can encourage my beautiful granddaughter to become a physician, I would say to her, choose psychiatry. And I would feel even more accomplished in this world. I thank you immensely for this opportunity and for listening to my story.
Thank you very much for your for being brave, for sharing your experience. It's admirable. You are truly, resilient persons, and we're so great to have you to join us for this launching. This is, I'm sure my colleagues and the people, over 108 persons that have joined us this morning, have learned so much of what it means to what the keynote speaker, Ed Mantler, was talking about, about the impact and the stress and what stigma can do and discrimination can do to a human being. But you have shown us that there is always a light at the end of this tunnel, and you are that light that we are so happy and proud from the PAHO community to have you join us too. And we want you to know that we'll continue supporting you too in this journey. So thanks for accepting our invitation. We are really honored to have you as part of our panelists. So with this, I want to bring, who's going to give us a special remark for this launching is Mike Petruso, the Director of Opening Minds, Mental Health First Aid Canada. And along with him, it will be Bianca Lauria Horner. She's an Associate Professor from the University of Dalhousie, Department of Psychiatry. I have to say that this journey would have not been possible. I met Mike a couple of years ago, 2017 perhaps, and the persistency to the commitment and the determination for us to work together is out of this world. He has been such a patient person, for us to be able to develop a letter of an agreement, an MOU with PAHO to be able to do this work. So I thank you for for this journey. So over to you, Mike and Bianca, to give us this special remarks. And thanks again, Ms. Caroline Ravel. The mic is for you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Claudina. Really appreciate those thoughtful and warm remarks. And Carolyn, again, please keep up your wonderful work. It takes an amazing amount of courage, but you can change the minds of so many people and make such an amazing difference. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased and honored to be here with you this morning for the launch of Understanding Stigma and Strengthening Cognitive Behavioral Interpersonal Skills. It has been a real pleasure to work with Claudina and members of her team at PAHO and the Center for Addiction and Mental Health to bring you this training through the virtual campus. As Ed mentioned, the Commission decided not to take a traditional approach or standard approach to addressing and tackling this whole issue of stigma. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We didn't think it was the right thing to do to invent new programs where already successful programs may exist. Now, over the years, we identified many programs and we put them through a very rigorous and systematic evaluation process, which has become a cornerstone of the Opening Minds program. And we were successful at replicating many of these programs, which is very important. And you'll see that today's program is an example of that. We had the good fortune of working with a team of academic researchers who developed a series of tools, as Ed was mentioning before, that didn't exist and played a key role in identifying some of those programs. And as Ed said, when we put our request out for interest from groups across Canada, we were overwhelmed by the response that we got. And we were able to narrow down the programs and work with the ones that we thought had shown the most promising practices. And so we worked with 25 programs focused specifically on healthcare providers. And we were able to use this process of pre and post evaluation, and we've since moved to randomized control trials as well, just to make sure that these programs are evidence-based and they deliver on the outcomes. Given the pervasive problem that Ed mentioned about the stigma associated with mental illness, alone 400 million people around the world living with depressive disorder, just as one example. So the Commission has shared its research through academic journals and peer-reviewed journals, as well as conferences, and is willing to share its programs with other countries around the world so that we can make a difference globally. In 2018, I was very pleased to get a request from Dr. Catano on behalf of Suriname to pilot some of our programs in that country. And we narrowed it down to two that we thought would be most useful initially, Understanding Stigma and CBIZ. Originally, the Understanding Stigma program was called Mental Illness and Addiction, Understanding the Impact of Stigma. It was developed in 2007 by a local health authority when they discovered that there was a great need for education and training among their professionals who work with people living with mental health issues. And that program wasn't around for very long. And in fact, it was shelved a few years later. And it was one of the programs that we came across, and we're fortunate that we did. So we adapted it in 2010 for use by healthcare professionals. We conducted 8 pilot studies around the program using sites such as hospitals and community care centers. And the results that we got back were fantastic. We really realized that this is a program that had certainly a lot of promise, and we saw that it went a long way to reducing stigma and increasing knowledge for healthcare professionals. And that knowledge leads to confidence. And when you're confident, you're not frightened about working with somebody or wanting to just pass them off so that somebody else is dealing with the issue instead of yourself. Now, we also found the CBIZ program, and the Cognitive Behavioral Interpersonal Skills program is a component of a much bigger program known as Adult Mental Health Practice Support Program. And this was developed by the British Columbia Medical Association for physicians and has been shown to be very effective. We found that, again, it went a long way to reducing the various domains of stigma that we were working with. And just as important, it provided a set of tools to physicians so that they could do a much more confident job of working with patients with mental illness. So the big challenge now, we turn to Dr. Bianca Loria Horner to combine, to develop a curriculum by combining these programs into a single program that could be delivered. And we asked her to deliver that program in Suriname. And back in November 2018, she delivered the program to a group of healthcare professionals, approximately 36, who were part of the program. And again, what we saw was very positive results in terms of reductions in the various domains of stigma that we were looking at. But also in follow-up surveys, what we heard from the participants was that they found the skills very useful for their job. They also said that it improved their confidence and changed their behaviors when it came to working with people with mental health problems. So again, very, very important. The effect sizes, interestingly enough, were moderate to large for the stigma domains. But when it came to social distancing, we found that in fact it was a large effect size change. So very good on that front. So we also conducted surveys afterwards to find out. And again, we saw the same type of thing that we, in our earlier research, where we found that doctors found the tools very useful, that improved their confidence, and positively changed their behaviors when working with people with mental health problems. So we had a success on our hands, and we were asked to develop a trainer program so that we could share the program much more widely. And then COVID hit. So what to do next? We couldn't deliver the course in person, and we had to pivot. And the result is this excellent program that will be delivered on the virtual campus. And I'm sure you're waiting to hear more about the content and more about the program. You're going to find the program very useful, and you're going to be in very good hands with Bianca. So I'm going to turn things over to her now.
You are muted, Bianca.
Your mic is muted, Bianca.
My mic is always muted. Okay, so I will start over. Good morning, fellow panelists. Good morning, everyone. And also, Claudina, thank you for the kind introduction. So what I will be doing is just providing a brief description of Understanding Stigma and Strengthening Cognitive Behavior Interpersonal Skills program. And also how my experience was with the pilot program. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a medical doctor I worked in clinical work for many years, and I joined the Mental Health Commission of Canada in 2013. I was provided many opportunities, wonderful opportunities, and this is by far the best one. So we know that the panelists have talked about mental health stigma in the healthcare setting. That people report often feeling devalued, dismissed, dehumanized, and they don't access help because of that. So there are certain challenges within the healthcare system. Healthcare providers lack the awareness of their prejudices and the behaviors. They also have an incomplete understanding of how important their role is in the process of the recovery of people. We hear that time and again when people with lived experiences share their story, and Caroline had a great story. Thank you for that, Caroline. Also, stigma can be related to a lack of skills and confidence when working with people with lived experience. There's some level of anxiety if they don't feel they have the tools to manage this target population or this population group. And in particular, if they don't have access to mental health specialty services, that makes the challenge even greater for healthcare professionals. So to address this growing public health concern, Mike mentioned that PAHO formed a partnership with the Mental Health Commission of Canada to address this at the clinical level. Two programs were combined, two stigma reduction programs, which was first delivered in person in Suriname. And as Mike mentioned, the positive results in stigma and also participants' reports of not only the person's experiences with the program, but also their own experience with how they felt after receiving the program, was the result of that was the transitioning of this program into the blended online self-learning and tutor-guided course. The Understanding Stigma component currently sits with the Canadian Association of Mental Health and was developed in partnership with the Mental Health Commission of Canada, but with permission was adapted for the Americas context and now sits with PAHO Virtual Campus. The course itself is a stigma reduction program. It focuses on education, on myth busting, on facts, and it uses social contact, basically videos where people with lived experiences share their experiences, their perspective, especially what has hindered in their recovery and what has helped in their recovery. And that's a core teaching element of understanding stigma. We know through research time and again that it is one of the most effective methods to reduce stigma. The Cognitive Behavior Interpersonal Skills Workbook, as Mike mentioned, is one of the core components of a larger program, the Adult Mental Health Practice Support Program, which I had the opportunity to be involved in as well. It is a skill-based program, and many will ask the question, what does increasing skills have to do with reducing stigma? What it is that many times people come to primary care providers when they're in a vulnerable phase or a vulnerable state. And healthcare providers may not know how to manage this population group. They don't have the appropriate tools. What they have at their disposal are mainly medication. And so there's that level of anxiety of, what do I do now? I can't refer for another, at least in Canada, for another 9 months. I can't access the mental health services or the specialist. What do I do? So there is this tendency, well, first to refer, or the second thing is to not ask the questions, which is really sad to hear. And I certainly, in my years of clinical practice, I certainly have been guilty of that. So I understand what it means to have those skills and use tools to help people. So the CDIS program takes participants from an organized approach that navigates through a problem, but also a strength-based assessment. So it's a holistic approach to assessing the person. You don't only assess their problems in terms of symptoms, but you also assess the person in terms of any other problems. Do they have financial problems? Do they have relationship problems? And then you assess their strengths. Once you gather all the information, you develop an action plan. It has tools to develop an action plan, and it flows through flowcharts to a series of options of self-management strategies. From there, the negotiation happens with the person, and they choose, there's the partnership, that decision-making with the person that really meets their needs. And this is really the strength of this program. It is definitely a partnership with the person. It is designed to increase practitioner skills in mild to moderate depression and anxiety disorders with or without medication. However, it is broadly applicable to other conditions as well. So as I mentioned, that strength improves communication, person engagement, and experience. It provides person choice, empowerment, that partnership, and they're definitely engaged in their recovery. The course, the pilot was piloted between July 7th to August 9th via the PAHO Virtual Campus for Public Health. We had 15 participants enrolled and 11 completed the course. And the reason for the pilot is we wanted to address any items prior to the delivery of the main course. We had a wide range of cultures, fields, and backgrounds, which greatly enriched not only the discussions, but also the feedback that we received. I was very much appreciative of that. And the countries that took part in the pilot was Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Turks and Caicos Island, Suriname, St. Kitts and Nevis, Peru, Argentina, and St. Lucia. I feel I need to go and buy some sunscreen or something. Okay, and so for me, my experience, it was an exceptional experience. First of all, we started with a very strong group, very skilled in mental health already from the beginning. So the choice was good. There was active participation and engagement in discussions. They provided very insightful and well thought out feedback of all the topics from start to finish. And some of the things struck me from the very beginning. There was such honesty in sharing their experiences. We had asked a question, do you remember a time when you related to a person with mental health condition that you regret today? Their answers were so open and genuine that I knew it just signaled to me that despite the work that still needs to be done, that we were on our way. And certainly with this group, they were on board. The other things that struck me from the beginning is their compassion towards persons with mental health conditions. And lastly, the use of respectful language that was already there. So facilitating this course for me was a great pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity from Opening Minds. We asked some of the questions or some of the feedback that came back from participants. I'll begin with Understanding Stigma. We asked, what have you found most valuable? And what came back, I picked the ones because the theme was more or less the same. So I picked the ones that one or two from the feedback. So the sharing of stories of individuals is always incredibly impactful and valuable. Certainly stimulated, another participant said, certainly stimulated reflection on onus of language and the importance of that. Even if we think something is funny or dissuading of certain behaviors, it really is just discrimination and has no place in the workplace nor among colleagues. The next question was, what benefits have you experienced from the program? So one participant shared, I feel less nervous at the thought of how to help people with multiple issues, problems, going on in their lives. As we know, sometimes clients come with multiple complaints and can be difficult prioritizing and addressing them. This program has been so incredibly comprehensive and awesome in guiding us in this and many others regards. The tools to actually address different aspects of mental health is super. Another participant, I can't sing praises enough for the program, honestly. Another participant, equipped with a wealth of practical and useful resources to be used to help screen and assist clients in getting better. It will also ensure that the client is involved in their treatment. Finally, we asked what were the challenges. There were very few challenges. There were none using the tools. What they were requiring or asking for is more exposure for the use of the tools and skills in terms of practice. And then finally, we asked any other comments about your experience with the program. The content is clinically accurate, yet presented in the CBIS manual and course platform in a very non-clinical, lay-friendly way that allows for persons from various backgrounds and professions to understand. Finally, the last comment, overall, I found this to be one of the most useful and relevant mental health courses webinars I have attended. So over the course of the training, we've identified 5 tutors to lead the main course. And now I hear that we have 149, if I'm not mistaken, registrants from various countries of the Americas. It will be delivered between August 19th to November 30th. And we listened, they have ample time to complete the tasks in between the modules and practice. So 2 weeks between modules. So my takeaway here is I'm very much looking forward to facilitating the course again with this new group. Lastly, what I'd like to comment on is the help that was provided to me from Opening Minds, but also equally from PAHO. Certain people were there constantly every day, and I was truly appreciative of that. So that ends my discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot to you. Thanks a lot, Bianca, Mike. This has been extremely relevant too. So we are already in the final stretch of this launch, and I'm extremely grateful to the panelists. You participants will agree with me that each one of them has given us different overview of the importance of addressing the impact of stigma and discrimination. And Bianca, in your presentation, bringing this testimonial is also very important to know. When we do this training, when we provide the necessary skills, people can then relate to that, the importance of creating that change. And we appreciate your enthusiasm and your commitment to in this journey. Now, this will not be complete. This launch will not be complete if we do not include in this release a critical component such as the virtual campus for public health. And for that, we have invited our great collaborator, a great friend, Gabriel Evstosky from Panama, the coordination of virtual course. So thanks again, Mike and Bianca, for being with us, for your for your support. And the mic is yours then, Gabriel, over to you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, colleagues from Mental Health Unit, to invite me to launch. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here to hear the experience First of all, I want to congratulate the entire teaching team. I heard the experience. You do an excellent work in the preparing this project. And from my team, I also want to congratulate Carlos León and Edgardo de Gracia, who work together with this project. I want to share with you the front page of the PAJO Virtual Campus. Yes, I hope all the participants have already enrolled in the campus. I remember exactly, but on Tuesday and yesterday, you had an immersion meeting to the campus and to the course. I invite to all of the participants today's meeting to enroll in the campus, to visit the different self-learning courses, to visit our webinars. In the campus portal at the top right, you have access for anyone who want to self-enroll in the different activities of the campus. Our main goal is to develop capacities and competencies in public health. The course that starts today is heading to this direction. It's always very, very important to us that everything you learn in the courses serve to the workplaces, yes? Serve in the health services. This is our ambition, and we work together every day to develop these capacities in the health services. I suppose this course is working in this line. I want to share with you some information about the campus. Where is the course? The course is in this context, yes? 2.5 million people participants enrolls in the last 15 years in the different PAJO virtual campus. It's key to have this stigma project that focuses on primary care providers in our Caribbean countries. Yes, year by year, the number of professionals in the primary health services grow in the campus, and we are very happy about this, and we are very happy too because we have year by year more health students in different areas using and visit the campus. We have, Claudina know about the history, we have a lot of experience to work together with the mental health unit. Yes, here are some of different courses along the history to work together. I invite you to visit and enroll, for example, in the open self-learning courses such as psychological first aid and preventing self-harm suicide. Yes, we continue to work together in different projects. Finally, to the participant, to the student of the project, key recommendation to the participant: enter frequently to the campus, follow the schedule, exchange in forums, exchange experience. It's very important to have the opportunity to the conversation with the different colleagues. We are take advantage of the tutor experience. Yes, one of the most important idea of the campus is bring knowledge to the practice. And this course is one important opportunity to develop this activity. Finally, this is the example of certificate of the campus with the sign of our director. And all of the participants that go with all of the activities of the campus will come down certificate similar to this. I wish to all a profitable experience, and I hope that at the end of the experience you can share comment, experience. It's very useful to me to hear the participant and to hear the experience to improve the different campus projects. Thank you very much. Éxitos and good job. Claudina, over to you. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much, Gabriel. We are so proud of this, of the virtual campus for public health. We're so proud of your team that you have. They're so responsive, and I know it is because you also have them right there in terms of being, you know, responding to our concerns anytime we have some questions. And the platform is such a useful platform for learning. And we are very, definitely from PAHO community, we're very pleased and proud of having this platform. And more importantly, is the people behind the platform, your people, you and your people who make a difference for us to continue working with. So thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us. So this takes, at least I'm very pleased about this launching. Is we say 1 hour, we exactly, 1 hour since we started. And as I say, it's been beautiful. Even the remarks that we're seeing in the chat, and I'm sure Renato will probably make a point to that. Caroline, you make, each one of you are receiving great compliments of such work that we are doing. So we will continue with what we've been doing over this, over the day, but we are so pleased that we have done this launching. And for the last remarks, I have Dr. Renato Oliveira to be able to do the the closing remarks. But definitely for me, this has been a great pleasure to be the moderator for this launch, and thanks to everyone. Renato, over to you.
Thanks, Claudina. I mean, what else to say? I think this is a great start for the course. I really thanks everyone for joining. I thank also for the comments in the chat. People were greeting and giving congratulations to the course. There were also some comments highlighting the importance of the topic and the course that is starting now. Maybe also I should say that we know that not everyone that wanted to join will be able to join. It's basically because of the limited capacity. So for the ones that could not join, we will be running other courses like this. This you can be sure. So we will find ways to accommodate more participants in next courses. Well, so again, thank you so much, and I wish all of you a great course and a great experience throughout this course. Looking forward to see you during the course. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everyone. The session is being it was recorded, so we'll send you the link so you can have the opportunity to again listen to the launch. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Hasta pronto.
Bye bye.